Alright everyone, it's Tuesday, missed a video yesterday, good to be back. I guess international break is the kind of time when you can do that. That's the bad news everyone, in case you don't know, we are still in the international break. Scotland aren't very good. The good news is we're doing another Q&A today and we've got Stevie on.
Hamish, good morning. How are we? Have you heard the news, by the way? How is James Earl Jones' health now?
Who's that?
This is the guy that did Darth Vader and Mufasa for The Lion King. He's away.
I don't... Oh, is he?
Aye,
Is he?
show a bit of respect there.
Oh, sorry, I'm just awake and haven't had a chance to check the obituaries for today. Apologies, I'm not on top of death as the same extent that you are, Stevie. God, you've really started the podcast off on a great tone. It's not even a podcast. That's how rattled I am, Stevie. I was laughing, mate, because we did a Q&A with John last week. I'm sure you've definitely watched that.
I did.
And I know that's what I'm saying. And the questions were, let's just say, they were very sincere and thought provoking and serious. Serious issues at Celtic. What can we do? And people very much enjoyed it. I then put up a post, this post, about the one that you're doing today, and we got tons and tons of patter. So I guess that kind of sums up. I guess it sums up the role of you and John in the channel. John has his audience; it works quite well. You've got your audience; it works quite well. It's quite good.
Hamish, I'm like the laughing clown here. I'm trying to be serious, and I get mocked by the thousands. It's a tragedy. But listen, I know I always try and make this thing about me, so let's just soldier on, shall we?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of you in this. There's a whole Stevie section. Don't worry about that. Right, okay. We're starting with a few Champions League questions. We've got at AAR196. What's your opinion on a McGregor-Engels-Bernardo partnership in Champions League being preferred over Hatate, as it would give you more athleticism in the middle of the park and probably more careful with the ball? So I think Paulo Bernardo's going to play a lot in the Champions League because he played last season. Rodgers really liked him. I think Hatate was maybe missing for a few games last season. But based off that, Rodgers is going to select Bernardo a hell of a lot in this season's tournament. But what about the Engels argument? Because he's been signed, I think, to start these big games, but we're so blessed in that midfield area. If Bernardo keeps playing like he did against Rangers, that Rodgers is going to have some decisions to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think Engels is definitely going to be starting in these games. Why else would you pay £11 million for a player like that, who's now a fully fledged international too? We can actually say that. But I wouldn't quite rule out Hatate starting at that level yet. Now, I know that we all seen that very viral clip against Real Madrid. Remember the chest and not the first time volley. I know
Yeah.
nothing happened from it, but Hatate's you think back all the way to the Shakhtar away game, like we don't score the first goal in that Champions League campaign without Hatate dragging the defenders all over the place. I actually thought Reo Hatate was outstanding, and this is going to such a Scotland bit apart here. I'm really sorry, but the 5-1 defeat in the Bernabeu, I still thought that Reo Hatate was outstanding that night, and I know how defeatist that seems. I don't know how like much a patronising answer that seems because of the optics surrounding it with the score. But he was magnificent that night. So I think Hatate can definitely star in the Champions League in a weird way. I think the fact that I don't think you would see Hatate like fully man marked as well in those games, like the way he is in Scotland, and the way like people like players are always sort of he manages to find space so well, but I think he would thrive with more space in at that level, especially with players like McGregor and Bernardo, adding a bit of solidity behind them. But yeah, I have no doubt we're going to see Bernardo and excuse me, McGregor and Engels certainly for a couple of the games. I'm quite optimistic about it. Listen, at one point, the Champions League last season, we were pretty much worried about the likes of David Turnbull, for example, as an option in there. Now we're at the point where we are now like debating what we're going to be stronger with, Engels or Hatate. It's a really good position to be in. So, yeah, no matter what the three are, like, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to this Champions League campaign in general. I've got right up for it now.
Yeah, I'd need to see more of Engels because we've barely seen him. He didn't really touch the ball too many times when he came on against Rangers. Something deep down tells me that you maybe need Reo Hatate in there. Hatate's just a bit different, and I can always remember in previous Celtic teams that you needed kind of three different players in that midfield when you had similar players. And I'm not saying Bernardo and Engels are completely similar, but I would guess maybe looking at them with that kind of work rate and defensive attitude, but also that ability to go forward, they may be similar players, and you just might need a little bit more variety in there. A guy with that kind of X factor, which I think we'd all agree Hatate has. I'm not saying that Engels doesn't have that or Bernardo doesn't have that, but maybe Hatate needs to be in that midfield. Remember how, and this might be a bad example because I think Engels and Bernardo have more legs than this pair, but remember how like Tom Rogic and Matt O'Reilly didn't really work in the same midfield because there wasn't enough legs, and even David Turnbull was the same. I just wonder if you need Hatate's kind of industry and just that kind of that risk he takes on the ball. I know AAR is saying that we need maybe someone to be more careful. I think you still need Hatate in there to try those passes, but maybe, well, definitely not in our final third. Anyway, moving it on, Stevie. I know you were choking to say something else, but we've got that many questions.
It's fine.
Thanks for that question. Right, Aidan with an A, because we've got an Aidan with an E coming up. But Aidan O'Brien, if we were to put up a good fight in the Champions League and get 8 or 9 points while being competitive in every game, but go out, can we view it as a success, or is it as black and white as qualify or its failure? For me, Aidan, had we got a really horrendous group of 8 fixtures, you could potentially look at this kind of thing of maybe if we compete in games and get a few wins against big teams and all of that stuff. For me, with the fixtures we've got, I think you need to make it black and white. Like, I'm kind of fed up of competing in games because we competed in 5 or 6 games last year. And a lot of the results went against us. Now, I know you're saying 8 or 9 points. With the fixtures we've got, for me, it is very simple now. I think for me, Celtic have to make the top 24 spot. We've had enough years of kind of coming up short or all of that stuff. So for me, however many points it takes, that's kind of irrelevant to me. We think 10 will definitely do it, 8 or 9 might. But it's getting to the next round of the Champions League, given our fixtures. For me, that is success. Failure would be not managing that. Stevie?
No, totally agree. The knockout stage, the top 24 has definitely got to be the target, and anything less than that, I'm sorry to say, would be considered a failure. And I'm saying that again on the basis of the draw that we got. Somebody pointed out that statistically, it is the easiest draw because I got, and I'm not saying it in a way that I expect us to go and batter teams. I don't, but I don't think at the same time we go into these games like feeding the worst. I think we can be competitive, but let's get real. We can actually win the games while being competitive too. And I'm sick of seeing the hard luck stories. I think a lot of this is probably down to seeing Scotland in the Euros too. When people were saying, that idea of just Scotland being competitive and giving a real good account of themselves, like Scotland really should have went in the Euros and made that top 3. I think Scotland were an utter failure. Of course they were, and I really don't want to see Celtic dragged down like that either. I think if Celtic made the top 24, that would be a success, and anything other than that, with the group that we've got, and the way that we've bolstered the squad, yeah, especially the home ties, I think anything less than top 24 would be considered a failure, and I think that's fair game as well. Because it's about time that we set a sort of target on being ambitious and all that as well. And we put a lot of pressure on the club in general to invest. They've done that now, and I know they take all the plaudits, but this is what we talk about. Like, with that now, there's a responsibility on them, like taking us to that next level, and the players have to step up as well. They'll get the backing for the fans, especially in the home games, and the fans will go abroad and get right behind them. So I know that does.
You? No.
I don't know. Maybe Villa.
You've had enough holidays, haven't you?
Maybe Villa. Well, more than Santa. No, maybe Villa away. But but yeah, I would agree with that. I think we've got to be pretty ambitious for the group that we've got, and really be competitive and actually set out to win the games and make that top 24.
You can get different degrees of failure, can't you? But it doesn't really take away from it still being failure. I mean, if we get 8 or 9 points, and this may well happen knowing what we're like, if we get 8 or 9 points, get a few big wins, that would be, and then fall short and finish 25th or something like that. Like, for me, that wouldn't be something I'd be like absolutely raging about. Not as raging as I would be if we completely flop and get like 3 or 4 points or something like that. But equally, it would still, for me, be failure. You've got to have a line somewhere. I mean, we do domestically. For us not winning a trophy is failure. Obviously, us not winning the Champions League isn't failure, but certainly us getting to the knockout rounds after January, that's what Brendan Rodgers wants as well. So it's clear for him that not getting that would be failure. So it's a good question that I think people are absolutely buzzing about the Champions League. Steve, we've got Aidan with an E, Aidan O'Donnell. Could we potentially get a prediction video regarding our fixtures in the Champions League? No, Aidan, you cannot. But we will run through these quickly now for you. Why don't we get your predictions, Stevie, for each game? And I'll tell you if I think we'll do better or worse or same as that. So Celtic versus Slovan Bratislava.
I think a Celtic win.
I think Celtic will win that as well. I don't think it'll be easy, but I think we'll win it. Right, so we've each got us in 3 points. Borussia Dortmund away.
I think Dortmund will beat us.
I agree. Atalanta away.
I think Atalanta will beat us as well.
I think we'll get a point in that game.
Depends as well.
Struggling start to the season.
I know, but how many times did we see Leipzig 2 years ago? Can they buy a win? Played us.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, so you've got us in 3, I've got us in 4. Leipzig at home, Stevie.
I think we can draw that game. They're a really, really good side. Some amazing individuals, but I think we can draw it.
I think that'll be a draw. So I've got us in 5, you've got 4. Club Brugge at home. We had someone commented yesterday saying he thinks people are really underrating Club Brugge. They were in pot 2. I think there is a chance of that. I think Club Brugge, you might look at the name, they might be a bit better than we expect.
Yeah, I'm certainly not, but I think that could be another draw.
Okay. Having said all that, I think we can win that game. Right, so I've got us in 8, you've got us in 4. Zagreb away.
This is the game I think we can win away. I think I'm going to say, and I think I believe they're still 100% record in the league. Could be wrong. The last I checked, they were a few days ago. So I think we can win that though. I think we could surprise people in that game. So I'm going to say a Celtic win.
Take a draw in that one. I think that'll be really tough away from home. I actually think we might lose that in a weird way, but not in a weird way at all. I just think we'll lose it. I'll go for a draw. Having said that, I'll be optimistic. I have lost track of the point. I think I've got us in 8 and you've got us in 7. Young boys at home, Stevie.
I think we can win that game too. Tough game.
I agree.
And they've went to Galatasaray and got a win in a very hostile atmosphere in the qualifiers. But I do think we can win that game. They've started the league shockingly as well. I believe they're down near the bottom.
Yeah, they have. I've got us in 11, you've got us in 10. Wow, we're both already qualified before we play Villa away. And what's your thought about Villa Park?
Easy. 4-0 Celtic. Nah, I think we'll lose that one.
See, I've got us down for a draw in that game. This obviously isn't happening. Although I did say in the group chat the other day, I genuinely think something like 12 points isn't as mad as folk would say. I'm well aware that our record in Europe recently has been pretty poor. I just think this Celtic team, I don't think they feel a lot of the baggage of that, if I'm honest. And I honestly think there's some very tough fixtures in there. But I think Celtic are actually a bit better than maybe even some of our own fans are giving us credit for. I think we're going to do quite well in this Champions League. That could age horrendously. There's certainly every game there's going to pose its challenges. But I think, as fans, let's back our team here to go and do something. Because I think the way we've started the season, the way we dismantled Rangers, I know a poor Rangers team, but yeah, I fancy it. Right, we've got Kala K Tracker 9013. With all us, an Adidas one, Stevie. With all 3 kits, training gear being released, would you renew the kit deal with Adidas? If not, who would you replace them with? Your quite on brand right now. You're wearing a nice wee Adidas number. I
I
quite like
don't think I thought about it. Nah, I know the stripes here.
I quite like the white and green training range. I'm going to get myself some of that. Obviously, you get big dogs like Castori out now, Stevie, so we could always move to them. They're doing really well, I think. Stick with Adidas, no?
Maybe for another season. Do you know what? In the words of Martin Luther King, I have a dream, right? And that is, I know that is. Imagine him being compared to me. Shocking. It's a real low point, isn't it? But see if Adidas did a Bumblebee 1996-97 version, and then bowed out on that, just like next season where the Bumblebee is a third kit, all time top seller. I think it would be a sensation. And then I think that would be the final season of Adidas, and it would be a good one to go out on. Who you get after it, I don't know.
How is Umbro's health these days?
I think they're all right. I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
That would be a good kind of back to the glory days, wouldn't it?
You know what? I would like a wee return.
Get Carlin on the front.
Good beer that. I would like a good return to Nike. I would like a return to Nike. I liked a lot of their stuff. So if I did this back to Nike, I think would be a nice wee transition.
Not mad on Nike, as I call them, Stevie. Not mad on them at all. I'd stick with Adidas. See, we call them different names. I'd stick with Adidas for a good while. I think that will be the case. Why would either Celtic or Adidas, end that relationship?
They'll both look
right now.
They'll just look at the all-round sales, won't they, and just see that Celtic fans are just mental for the merchandise. The lot of them, I don't know what they're all about. But I would personally, if it's the last season with Adidas, I would like to see Nike, but can't see it happening really.
And just quickly, in terms of like a sponsor, I know that's not what's been asked, but are we all agreed that Guinness is the ideal sponsor for Celtic?
TalkSport, mate. TalkSport, best radio channel in this Isles. Don't worry about that. I'd have them in a second. I know. Guinness are weird. Guinness are mad in terms of, I don't think they're big on sponsorship at all. I went to the brewery last year. I'm sure you've been to, and they made a big thing about that, and be rude not to, isn't it? No, they don't. They don't do enough sponsorships in general, but I guess they don't need to when their profits are ridiculous, bigger than Celtic's, amazingly enough.
Yeah, they are. Thanks to good people like me and you. Right, okay, spread the love 77. Do you think BR, assume that's Brendan Rodgers, will stay longer than 3 seasons if he gets adequately backed every summer to try and progress us further each year in the Champions League?
First off, I think he will definitely stay the 3 years. I think that's
I agree with that.
It's hard to say now. I mean, see if we did get to the top 24 and get gubbed in the knockout stage, and then obviously next season we got to the Champions League via the qualifiers, and maybe it was the same stage, but we were showing signs of progress. I think he would maybe see that and back himself to go one better and win in a knockout stage, and then maybe after he's achieved that at Celtic, he would see it as the time to step away. But it really all depends on how things go in the Champions League this season and also the season in general. So I definitely think he'll stay for these 3 years, I have no doubt. But after that, hard to tell. I mean, if he is backed and if he's, it seems like he's won the trust of the fans again. Like, compare it to last season, everybody was all split down the middle, a very divisive figure around Celtic, and the club itself was in a state of disrepair, wasn't it? And now everything seems to have healed. There's no infighting. Fans are all on the same page. Totally back the manager. Totally back the team. I think we're going in a really good direction now, and if we can keep it like that generally over the course of the next few years, and he'll probably see that as a good thing, especially in the back of his mind. I don't doubt that he still probably beats himself up about the way he left and wants to sort of make amends in that respect. So I know it's daft to say the emotional aspect will be a pull in it, but for a guy like Brendan Rodgers, whose ego is massive and he loves getting it massaged, I wouldn't blame him. If he wanted to stay another couple of years after this, I guess we'll wait and see. But I wouldn't complain how things have went this season so far.
I think you've got to ask, why is Brendan Rodgers back at Celtic for a second stint? And I think, as you say, part of it was I genuinely believe part of it was salvaging that reputation that was not in a good place when he jumped ship to Leicester. I think that is genuinely part of why he's back at the club, to mend that and repair that. You'd argue that he's pretty much there. I think as long as I think he would need to stay the 3 years, but say he stayed for 3 years, and I think he will, because as much as people might be saying, "Oh, you can't say that, he jumped last time," I do genuinely believe this time we will get the 3 years out of Brendan Rodgers, just because he's so aware of, and was probably a bit surprised with the reaction he got last time after doing so well for us when he left the vitriol. I think he will want to salvage that reputation. I think he's doing that, but he'll need to stay for the 3 years. The second part would be the European part that he struggled with in his first stint at the club last season. Obviously we finished bottom of our group. I think that's really what's leaving him behind the likes of Martin O'Neill at the moment, in terms of being maybe our best manager of the 21st century. I know it's a debate we had last week. It's actually John that kind of brought it up, and just kind of, I think he basically asked the question, what would Brendan Rodgers have to do to be viewed as our top manager of the 21st century? And I mean, Martin O'Neill's team was clearly better, but if Brendan Rodgers was to achieve something big in Europe, and it would have to be big because Martin O'Neill achieved big stuff, then maybe that's a discussion we could have. But I think he wants the European stuff. In terms of how long he's going to stay and if he's backed, as I say, I think we'll get 2 more seasons, and then we'd have to wait and see at that case, because there's always the worry about Brendan Rodgers that things maybe go a little bit stale after a few years. That's what happened at Liverpool and Leicester, and even maybe at us the first time. As much as we kept winning trophies, we weren't nowhere near as good in seasons 2 and 3, so that's on my mind as well.
I don't know if you've just seen it. Have you seen in your phone the news that's just come up there? Well, you were literally saying that.
You winding me up?
Brendan Rodgers off to Saudi.
I thought you were genuinely going to say it was like a new contract or something.
Nah. Just me trying to be funny. Do you like that one? No.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Hamish. I noticed you were choking to speak there for about 2 minutes when I was speaking.
I was like Brendan when Michael Nicholson went, shut him up.
You can see the moment in his eyes when he thinks, yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
I'm going to get a good pop.
Genius. Fabulous. Right, okay. Like everyone, let's move on to the Stevie section then. We'll move through this quickly, don't worry. Shane Boy, I just want to ask Stevie if his back hurts from carrying this channel in addition to all of his other responsibilities. Stevie, your back hurting?
What responsibilities? I don't do anything. Just lying in my bed all day. No, my back's fine. My back's fine, Hamish. I'd like to be white here and all that, but the reality is you do a lot of the stuff in the channel. You know what?
We don't need this.
I know. It's like Tommy Burns said, wasn't it? I'm just a fan that got lucky.
Right, okay. Erin Jack enjoyed this one. She's saying, Stevie, you've got virtually everything. How come you are so good? That's not the question. But in all seriousness, Stevie, if you had to give up one thing from the following, what would you choose? Right, so your options are A, drinking pints, B, eating pies, or C, complaining about Celtics. You have to give up one of those 3, Stevie.
Charming. Well, I'm going to take back complaining about Celtic, because you've always got to hold the club to account and can't be a happy clapper. So that's that way. Drinking pints or eating pies, believe it or not, and again, smelling salts, and you might want to get these if you faint here, Erin. But I'm not that big on pies. Genuinely, I'm not. But I do enjoy a good pint. The pies, and I'm not really a big fan of that anymore. So I would take away that. I think I could live without the pies, but pints and complaining about the club, it's always going to happen. Don't worry about that.
You're not really a Greggs man, are you?
No, I don't like Greggs. Baines, though. Oh, yes, Baines, beautiful, lovely.
We Scots. Different spelling, isn't it? Right, okay, Tom Flanagan, question for Stevie. Favourite season growing up watching Celtic?
It would be the Martin O'Neill first season, 2000, 2001. I was at 95% of the games. This was at a time, wasn't it like £56 and all that to get into football and stuff? even in Europe and all that, there with my uncle, my granddad. It was just amazing times in the supporters bus, and obviously there was a really important moment. I was saying, like, Rangers had beat us 4-0 when I was at Ibrox when Van Bronckhorst scored and I kicked a seat and I hurt my foot and all that as a wee guy. And I remember saying, when's this going to get
Is it no
better?
5-1, nah?
No, that was it. Martin O'Neill first season they won, but a season before they beat us 4-0, right? And I remember turning round, like, being so dejected. I'd only seen us win one league in my life, going, is this always what it's going to be like? I was so gutted that it looked like it was just total dominance for the next 20 years. And Martin O'Neill comes in, transforms the club. We actually buy in great players. And I think, obviously, we won the treble, but the most amazing thing was getting to see peak Henrik Larsson. In fact, not even peak Henrik Larsson. Peak Henrik Larsson was probably between 02 and 04. And yet that season, Henrik had scored 53 goals in all competitions. And his 50th goal at Ibrox, I was there. An amazing time. That was my favourite season, and I guess that was the catalyst for what we're seeing Celtic as now. Like, that laid the foundations for Celtic's dominance for like the next 20 years, and yeah, that's one of the things that can't ever be taken away from me.
Yeah, amazing season. Bit jealous that you got to experience all that. Larsson goal at Ibrox round the keeper, wasn't it?
Amazing.
Maloney at the back stick and all of that stuff. My dad always talks about that goal in that season. So fabulous, Lubo and all of that stuff.
Wonderful.
Right, oh dear. Kempinski 15, if we're to believe that. For Stevie, non-football related, what's your favourite quote or scene from the classic sitcom Only Fools and Horses?
You put Del Boy on, don't you? Brilliant. So many great characters, but see when he's in the bar and he leans in the bar and he falls off it, that's a classic. It's magic. Favourite quote, but see when he says, "Hey up, Trig, we're in here." Brilliant. He's amazing. So that's my one there. Play it cool, Hamish, know what I mean?
Thanks for that. Right, we've moved on from the Stevie section. That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Donny, Tiny Hands, asking me a question. How long will you stay in Australia? Donny, I've been here for a year. Probably going to do 2 more years, unfortunately, Stevie. And then I'll be back to give you some company. So probably a total of 3 years. I can get 3 years on the visa, so that's the reason it's 3 years. And then head back to beautiful, sunny Scotland, and hopefully start going to Celtic games again. If my season ticket's still there.
See when you come back. I'll be away. Don't worry, mate. I'll do that route.
Lovely stuff. You're a great pal. Thanks for that. Right, a couple more questions to finish. Mike Worrell, what can Celtic do to improve all the infrastructure for match days in and around the stadium and travel parking solutions? I guess you're going to games more than me at the moment, so is there anything that really gives you a frustration in terms of like going to and from the games? That walk from Dalmarnock's kind of long, deceivingly long, isn't it?
Aye, it is. If you're in a rush, it's one of the most annoying walks you'll get. But you know me, I like to get in the game and plenty of times, so it's not too bad for me. I do plan ahead in that respect. I'm quite lucky from where I live. I can get to Celtic Park in like half an hour and walking distance as well. So I tend to do that as much as possible. But I do feel frustration.
It's not a great stadium though, is it, in terms of like travel
No,
links
it's
and
rubbish.
stuff? You compare them to some of them down south, and even like Ibrox. I know they've got to get the
subway loyal.
The subway, yeah, I know, well, exactly, but like that's quite close to their ground, isn't it? It's a walk I've never actually done, believe it or not, to Ibrox, but I think it's quite close to their stadium.
Yeah, I think we could benefit for that, but then you say that, and it's not really Celtic's fault that there's not like a closer subway.
Yeah.
I believe one of our mates said there used to be a subway like even closer to Celtic Park, I believe, and it's been shut. It's been shut down. The audience might know what I'm talking about. I don't know if I've been had by a pal, but he did tell me there was one even closer to Celtic Park, and they shut it off. But it should be better for people that have to like drive and the parking situation shocking. And in the stadium, I just feel as much as, yes, I guess to us, Celtic Park is still the greatest stadium in the world, and you know what I mean, we'll make excuses for it. I mean, I do all the time when I'm talking about it to people, especially abroad. But it is looking a wee bit dated now. When you look around the concourse and you see like just generally the the interior of it, it looks really dated. It's like a tired looking stadium, and it could be touched up in that respect. I don't know if the club even bother with that side of things though. I think they just look at it as, well, it's going to get manky anyway, who cares? But it's optics of it aren't great. But that's the only thing I can think of for infrastructure, realistic, because they're never going to do anything with the main stand. I mean, knocking that down and expanding it would benefit the fan base so much that we get more people in the door and get that waiting list down. But realistically, they're probably never going to have that. So I would say, yeah, just Celtic Park looking just. It just looks so tired, and it'd be great. It's like me, Hamish. It just looks so jaded, past its best in that respect, and something needs to be done about it. But there'll be other people with more serious gripes than that, I guess.
The outside of the stadium's amazing, isn't it? I mean, do we still agree that I think it looks fabulous on the outside? But I agree, like the concourse, from my memory anyway, it wasn't horrendous, but I agree it could be a lot nicer. But I think that there's so much they could improve if we're taking it to the actual match day experience. There's a lot the club could improve. But as you say, a lot of the time we're just happy to go and support our team, that we put up with these things. I don't think we're alone in that. I mean, there's a number of teams you can think of, our rivals, for example. I think we have you see Ibrox out from the outside and it just looks horrendous compared to our stadium. Hampden's not amazing. Old Trafford, obviously down south, is getting pelters. So,
in the stadium, I guess, to a match-going fan is ever going to be perfect. So, I get that. That's just my gripes with it. But to some other people, they might just see it as a cool feature. You know what I mean? And it's not one of those soulless modern stadiums. So there is that as well.
yeah.
That's just my opinion, though.
I mean, I was thinking this the other day. It is an amazing stadium for me. Like the kind of the shape of it and the atmosphere it generates. Like, there's a reason when opposition fans come to our ground, they absolutely love it. Love it as a stadium. I think we are blessed to have a stadium that good, to be honest. Right, okay. Final question. Cam Fletcher, favourite Celtic win of all time. Two of my favourites, excluding games against them, will be Barcelona 2012 and Aberdeen Cup final. Those were the two that I immediately went to. Cam, but it's kind of a bit like easy to say that, isn't it? The other ones I just thought of, and there'll be so many that come to my mind. 3-2 win at Ibrox. I was at row 5. If you actually watch the highlights back of that game, you can see me just behind the nets, and obviously Odsonne Edouard scored that goal in that game, and I absolutely loved that game, because see, when you go behind in a game and come back to win, that's what's so satisfying. And maybe that's part of my other one, another 3-2 that I wasn't at. Spartak Moscow away. I remember winning that 3-2. First time I'd ever seen Celtic. First time a lot of us had seen Celtic win away from home in the Champions League, because it was the first time we'd ever done it, wasn't it? In the group stage, and obviously scoring late on Samaras header. So that'd be an underrated one for me. If I'm honest, probably... yeah. I guess we're excluding games against Rangers, aren't we? Which I've just realised. So that probably rules my one out. What are you thinking?
Oh, I didn't realise.
You can go for it if you want.
I didn't realise we're excluding that, because it's the...
Oh, no, he's not. Sorry, the question is favourite Celtic win of all time. So you can have Rangers ones as well.
April 2008, 2-1, Jan Vennick. It's the one because of the lead up to it. I mean, that season, by that point, I'd given up hope, and we'd lost to Motherwell 2 weeks beforehand, and then we beat them 4-1. Then we're playing Rangers, who are a very, very strong Rangers side, pretty much going for 4 trophies. Walter Smith had won 3 in a row for Strachan getting into that game, and it was a midweek kickoff. So already midweek kickoffs, like we talked about, Hamish, there's something special about it. It's Celtic Park, and as I say, I had given up hope all the build up to that game. I thought Rangers had done it, and I've been going to home and away all that season as well, so it was like even more meaning, like, the money you spend on it, and it's like all for nothing.
Yeah.
And it was just that night. It's hard to explain, right? But when the teams came out within 30 seconds, Barry Robson doing something that we never did in those 3 games, like a physical presence, and you're like, wow, the fans and everyone were so up for it, and it was a fantastically entertaining game. Nakamura's goal, stunning. And then obviously, I'm going to send you actually, Hamish, right? I've got old videos from back then on my first ever YouTube account. Yeah, without going on and on, because I could talk about that and for longer. I know you don't want to hear that, but the most I've celebrated the goal is still that Jan Vennegoor one, and the biggest one for it was finally Stratton getting that win over Watersmith, but playing ugly and grinding it out. And it was the fact that it gave me hope again, that I thought, you know what, we might be able to take this to the last day now. We've finally beaten Rangers. This squad might get confidence. And what happened? That Celtic team just went like that. That Rangers side, it was that game that they just went, they plummeted. And it's always stayed in my mind. That was if it was one of the ones where you could go back in time and relive a game and just watch it without all the stress and just see how it unfolded, it would be that. It was by far the most amazing game I've been at in my life.
Yeah, I loved that game as well. I think, you have to look at them as a double header as well, don't you? The game that was maybe, would have been 10 days later, a couple of weeks later, the 3-2 game again. That was another major one that was probably goes under the radar because of how dramatic the previous one, and obviously the previous one was midweek, which you always remember a bit more, but that 3-2 game as well was frantic. I mean, those 2 matches were an incredible advert for the old Derby, the old firm as it was, and
careful.
It was the old firm back then. No, it's not anymore.
Some bloggers might come for you,
mate. Loved it. So many good memories. I think one day, Stevie, we will do a video of our favourite Celtic games of all time, like a top 10 or something like that. Or I can maybe ask you about your top 10. You can just do your top 10.
A 90-minute rewatch of that game again. And how good would that be? Look, see me carrying this channel, man. What's that? Oh, it's back again.
Right, okay, on that note, we're going to head off. Stevie, thanks once again. I don't know when we'll catch up with you next. You're not doing this weekend's game.
Did you tell them why? Did you tell them my nonsense?
No.
I thought the game against Hearts this weekend, I thought it was a Sunday. I don't know why. I thought it was a Sunday, and I'm doing a charity walk for Glasgow Children's Hospital on Sunday, and I thought, well, if the game's on Sunday and I'm doing that, I'll just give it to Rizzo, and then I've remembered it's Saturday, so good luck, mate. Good luck with the big man on Saturday, mate.
Yeah. Rizzo, you've not met Rizzo yet. It should be fun if his phone/internet/opinions hold up. We love Rizzo. I'm looking forward to getting Rizzo on the channel. Big part of Gig Pod. So it's going to be a fun one on Saturday. Can we stick a link for donations for your charity into the description, Stevie? Is that allowed?
I don't think I've got one because I've just donated already, and me and my daughter are doing it. But listen, if people just want to put in a comment and just hope that I don't pass out after 2 minutes and collapse, then that would be appreciated. That's all I'll ask for.
Fabulous.
Your moral support.
Okay. Brilliant. Right, we'll catch up with you probably next week then, Stevie, potentially ahead of the Bratislava game. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Back tomorrow.